I'm looking at this thing. It's not a thing exactly. It's more like a presence. It's made of light, but it's not bright in the way a lamp is bright. It's like the light is the color, and the color is the meaning. And it's talking to me, not with words, not like you and I are talking now. It's more like knowing. Like the thought just appears fully formed inside my head, but it's not my thought. It's like a shared understanding. I'm trying to describe it, and I'm failing. It's like trying to explain music to someone who's never heard a sound. The colors, they're like nothing on earth. They're iridescent violet, shimmering gold, but not static colors. They pulse, and with each pulse, there's a feeling, an inherent meaning that just lands. It's a feeling of knowing, of being understood at a level I never knew existed. There's this warmth, too. Not a physical heat, not like a blanket. It's a temperatureless comfort, a deep, abiding peace that seems to seep into every cell, every atom of my being. It's like coming home, to a home I never knew I had. And in that moment, all the worries, all the anxieties, all the petty concerns of my life just dissolved. They simply ceased to exist. There was no room for them. There was only this vast, all encompassing sense of belonging. And then I was in the hospital. My name is Maria Rodriguez. I'm 62. For the last 30 years, I've been a court reporter. My life, up until recently, was built on precision. Every word, every pause, every breath captured and transcribed. Extreme self-reliance was my motto, my creed. I didn't believe in anything I couldn't touch, see, or measure. No gods, no spirits, no afterlife. Just the concrete reality of this world. And the cold, hard facts. My daughter, Elena, we haven't spoken in 5 years. A stupid fight over money, a misunderstanding that festered. She's 35 now, and I haven't seen her face to face since. It's a gaping wound, that estrangement. But admitting I needed anything from anyone, even her, that was harder than facing any courtroom. So I buried it, like I buried everything that wasn't strictly logical. I remember the Tuesday before everything happened. It was a typical morning. I'd made my coffee, strong and black, and I was reviewing transcripts from a case. The usual. The sun was streaming through the blinds, casting those sharp, clean lines across my desk. I remember thinking, just for a fleeting second, how fragile all of this felt. The order, the structure, like a house of cards. Then I shook my head, dismissed it. Just tired, I told myself. Always so much to do. Did you have any sense looking back that something was coming? Looking back, yes, of course. It's always the little things, isn't it? The things you brush aside because they don't fit your established narrative. A week before, I was at the grocery store. I was reaching for a carton of milk, and for just a second, the lights above me flickered. Not a full blackout, just a brief, almost imperceptible stutter. I didn't think anything of it. But then, a few days later, I was listening to the radio, trying to drown out the silence in my apartment, and the music just cut out. For a solid 10 seconds, nothing but static, pure white noise. It felt wrong, like the universe was trying to get my attention. And my own thoughts. I'd been having these moments where I'd feel a profound sense of detachment. Not sadness, not despair, but a kind of disconnection. Like I was watching my own life from a distance, and the real Maria was somewhere else, just observing. I'd dismiss it as stress, as just another byproduct of getting older. I'm just tired, I'd tell myself. Too much court, not enough sleep. I was so convinced of my own control, my own resilience, that I couldn't see the cracks forming. I thought I was just having an off week. I had no idea how off it was going to be. It was October 17th, a Tuesday. The year is etched in my mind, but the feeling is what's so vivid. I was at St. Jude Medical Center in the cardiac catheterization lab. A routine procedure, they said. Just a look-see, a way to rule out any problems with my heart after a minor scare. The room itself was sterile. The air was cool, a crisp, almost biting temperature that seemed to amplify the hum of the machinery. There were the usual smells, that faint metallic tang of antiseptic, mixed with something vaguely plastic. I could see the anesthesiologist, a calm man with kind eyes, and two nurses, their faces obscured by masks, moving with practiced efficiency. The lighting was bright, clinical, reflecting off the polished metal instruments. I was lying there, the thin gown doing little to ward off the chill. I remember focusing on the rhythmic beeping of the monitor next to me, trying to ground myself in its predictability. And then it started. A sudden, cold numbness. It began in my fingertips, like pins and needles, but deeper, colder. It spread rapidly, climbing my arms, my torso, a chilling invasion. It wasn't pain, not at first. It was just an absence of feeling. Then, a pressure, like an iron band tightening around my chest, squeezing the air out of me. My breath hitched, my vision swam. The beeping of the monitor started to stretch, to distort. I felt a gasp escape my lips, a desperate, futile attempt to inhale. I looked at the anesthesiologist. His eyes widened. The nurses moved faster. And in that fraction of a second, as the pressure intensified and the world began to recede, I understood. This was it. This was the end. The last sensation before the lights went out was a strange, profound silence, an almost absolute stillness that fell over the room, as if time itself had paused. I remember hearing, even through the encroaching darkness, the faint murmur of the doctor's voice, sharp with concern, and the frantic clicking of the monitor as it finally flatlined. They told me later, after they brought me back, that it was 4 minutes and 12 seconds. 4 minutes and 12 seconds in the void. And then I was somewhere else. It wasn't a place, it was a state of being. The first sensation wasn't visual or auditory, it was a dissolving. Like the edges of myself, the boundaries of Maria Rodriguez just melted away. There was no physical body, no weight, no resistance, just pure consciousness. It was like being a single drop of water merging into an infinite ocean. And the colors, oh, the colors. They weren't like anything you see here. They were iridescent violet, shimmering gold, but they pulsed with inherent meaning. It wasn't like looking at colors, it was like experiencing them. They weren't just hues. They were concepts, emotions, vast reservoirs of understanding. The light, it wasn't coming from anywhere. It was just present. Like air is present, but it was light. Does that make sense? It felt like a benevolent, all-knowing hum. It wasn't loud. It wasn't silent. It was everything. And it was temperatureless, but infinitely comforting. It was the feeling of being completely, utterly held. The overwhelming sense of belonging washed over me, a peace so profound that it dissolved all individual concern. Every worry I'd ever had, every regret, every burden, they just lifted. They were no longer mine. They were simply not. I felt connected to everything, to the hum, to the colors, to every atom of existence. It wasn't a thought, it was a knowing, a deep, intrinsic understanding that I was part of this, that this was part of me. There was no separation. I saw not with my eyes, but with my entire being, the intricate tapestry of existence. Every life, every moment interwoven. I saw Elena, not as she is now or as she was then, but as a spark, a beautiful, unique light within that vast tapestry. And I saw myself not as Maria Rodriguez, the court reporter, the fiercely independent woman, but as another spark, just as essential, just as loved. And then a message. It wasn't spoken, it wasn't a vision, it was pure, unadulterated knowing that flooded my consciousness. Your independent spirit was a shield, but the greatest strength is knowing you were always held. The strength you sought was already within the bonds you tried to break. It resonated with a truth so deep, so fundamental that it bypassed all my defenses, all my logic. It was me, but it was also more than me. It was the universe speaking directly to my soul. I felt something crack open inside me, something that had been shut tight for decades. My self-reliance, my stubborn insistence on standing alone, it suddenly seemed so small, so utterly unnecessary. I finally understood that the strength I'd been so desperately trying to cultivate within myself, the strength I thought made me invincible, was actually a cage. The true strength was in vulnerability, in connection, in the very bonds I'd so fiercely tried to sever. And in that moment, I knew. I truly knew. The desire to return, it wasn't born of fear, but of a newfound understanding, a deep, aching need to live that understanding. And then a wrenching, a violent, jarring sensation like being pulled backward through a narrow, constricting tunnel. It was the opposite of the dissolving. It was a reformation, a painful, clumsy stuffing back into a physical form. The peace was gone, replaced by a deafening cacophony. The light, the colors, the hum, all replaced by a harsh, sterile glare and the insistent, intrusive beeping of machines. My body felt impossibly heavy, leaden, and cold. Every limb ached with a dull, throbbing pain. My chest felt constricted, not with the iron band of death, but with the crushing weight of existence. I heard voices, sharp and clinical. She's back. Monitors picking up. The first thing I saw was a ceiling, a sterile white expanse that felt alien and oppressive, too bright, too solid, too separate. I heard the nurses talking, their voices clipped and urgent. One of them was asking about her lunch break. It was absurd. Here I was, having glimpsed the infinite, and she was worried about a sandwich. The world felt jarringly loud, too bright, and incredibly lonely. It was like waking up in a world that was shouting at me, a world where everyone was on their own island, struggling to be heard. The contrast was staggering. The profound sense of unity I had experienced, shattered by the stark, undeniable reality of individual existence. I was in the hospital for a week. Elena came. She sat by my bedside, her face etched with a mixture of relief and something I couldn't quite read. We didn't talk about the incident. We didn't talk about the past. But her presence, it was a balm. It was a silent acknowledgement that the bonds I had tried to break were still there, holding us. The biggest change, the most profound shift, wasn't dramatic. It was in the small things. I started attending support groups for estranged families. It felt humbling, almost humiliating at first, to admit that I needed help, that I had failed. But the shared stories, the quiet understanding in the room, it was a form of healing. I began making consistent, humble efforts to mend things with Elena. Phone calls, texts, even just sending her articles I thought she'd find interesting. Most of the time, she was distant, guarded. But I kept trying, because I knew with an absolute certainty that the strength I had been searching for my entire life wasn't in my independence, but in my willingness to connect. The after effects, they still linger. Sometimes, when I'm really deep in thought, trying to process something complex, or when I'm feeling a strong emotion, electronic devices around me tend to flicker. Radios might briefly go to static, or televisions might show a momentary distortion. It's like a little echo, a ripple from that other place. It doesn't scare me anymore. It's just a reminder. A reminder that the world is far stranger and more interconnected than I ever allowed myself to believe. I live differently now. I listen more. I judge less. I'm not afraid of being held anymore. Just last week, Elena called me. She was upset about something at work. I sat on my porch, the late afternoon sun warming my face, and I just listened for an hour. I didn't offer solutions. I didn't try to fix it. I just listened. And in that quiet space between her words and my breath, I felt it. That profound sense of belonging. That quiet strength.